Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. It all started on a Tuesday, which was, as far as Deadpool was concerned, the worst possible day for the world to end. If it were a Thursday, at least there was the weekend to look forward to, but a Tuesday, that was just lazy scheduling. Deadpool stood on the roof of a crumbling building, the skyline of New York warping before his eyes. Buildings twisted, bending, streets split open, exposing infinite voids beneath them. The sun hung in the sky like a melting popsicle, dripping purple goo across the horizon. Yeah, reality was broken. All right. Wanda, what the hell did you do? He muttered under his breath, tightening his grip on his katana. Not that his swords would do much good in a world where gravity could stop working mid-step and fire hydrants exploded with rainbows instead of water. He was immune to most things, but fighting chaos magic, not his forte. Still, here he was, the only one standing unaffected, while the rest of the world went down the magical rabbit hole. Why him? Why was he the only one not turned into a technicolor goat? Not that he was complaining, but when the laws of physics break, it usually means something very, very bad is happening. Deadpool had heard the whispers. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, had lost control. And when someone with the ability to rewrite reality gets a little emotional, well, this kind of apocalyptic mess happened. Now, instead of Avengers patrolling the streets, there were dragons the size of buses flying overhead, and the moon looked suspiciously like Swiss cheese. Deadpool sighed, adjusting his mask. Okay, Wade, think. Where would Wanda be if she lost her mind and decided to make the world look like a bad acid trip? He didn't have to think too hard. Last he heard, Wanda had been staying in a small house on the outskirts of the city, trying to live a quiet life after the whole Westview incident. Of course, because Quieties and Wanda never really went together, did they? Taking a deep breath, not that he needed to, but old habits die hard. Deadpool hopped off the rooftop, landing with a soft thud on what used to be a sidewalk. Now it was some kind of gelatinous substance that jiggled under his feet. He made his way through the chaos, dodging the occasional fireball and avoiding a talking squirrel that tried to sell him insurance. It did take long to find Wanda's house, though. It looked less like a house now and more like a melted wax museum. The air around it shimmered with raw magic, thick and oppressive. Deadpool could feel it, even through his supposed immunity. Knock, knock, he said, rapping his knuckles against the door, which dissolved into a swarm of butterflies the moment he touched it. Great, just great. He stepped inside, the interior of the house as warped as the outside. Furniture floated aimlessly, and the walls pulsed with a dull red light like a heartbeat. In the center of the room, seated on what might have once been a couch, was Wanda Maximoff. She looked broken. Her usual composed demeanor was gone, replaced by a woman barely holding herself together. Her red hair was tangled, her eyes dark with exhaustion, and her hands trembled as she absent-mindedly weaved threads of magic through the air. Each flicker of her fingers sent ripples through reality, distorting the space around her. Wanda, Deadpool called out softly, stepping closer. We need to talk. Her head snapped up, eyes locking onto him for a moment. It looked like she didn't even recognize him. Then slowly her expression shifted, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. But it wasn't terror relief, it was fear. Wait, she whispered, her voice hoarse. You shouldn't be here. I can to control it, I can to stop it. Well, that's not the thing, he said, trying to keep his tone light. I am kind of immune to this whole reality bending situation you've got going on, so lucky me, right? Wanda's eyes widened, and for the first time she seemed to take in the fact that he was standing there unharmed while the world around them twisted and broke. Yuri and you. Yep. Guess what? Ever magic mojo. Yuri throwing out there, doesn't he work on me? Which means I am probably the only one who can help you fix this mess. Wanda shook her head violently, her fingers tightening into fists as the red magic around her pulsed dangerously. Number, you don't understand. I am too far gone. I've already torn the world apart. I can put it back together. Deadpool knelt down in front of her, forcing her to meet his eye. Look, Wanda, I get it. You were having a bad day. Hell, you were having the worst day. But that doesn't mean you get to check out. You read the Scarlet Witch. Damn it. You can fix this, but I can't do it for you. You've gotta wanna fix it. Her breath hitched, her eyes filling with tears. I don't even know where to start. That's easy, he said, pulling out one of his katanas and twirling it lazily. We start by kicking the ass of whatever's got you so twisted up inside. Wanda gave a shaky laugh, though. It sounded more like a sob. You make it sound so simple. So it's because I am an idiot, Deadpool said cheerfully. But hey, if an idiot like me can survive this crazy world, then a badass like you can definitely fix it. For a long moment, Wanda just stared at him, the weight of the world and reality itself pressing down on her. Then slowly, she nodded. Okay, I'll try. That said, the spirit Deadpool grinned, standing up and offering her his hand. Now, where do we start? Wanda hesitated, glancing around at the swirling chaos that surrounded them. We need to get to the heart of the outbreak, the place where the magic is strongest. That's somewhere I can start undoing the damage. And where would that be? Wanda closed her eyes, focusing for a moment. When she opened them, they glowed with a familiar, dangerous red. It centered at the center of the city, where it all began. Deadpool sheathed his katana and cracked his knuckles. All right, then let's just go. Save reality. As they stepped out of the house, the world seemed to hold its breath. The air crackled with energy, the sky darkening, as if the universe itself was waiting for them to make their move. And Deadpool, for once, didn't too crack a joke, because as much as he hated to admit it, this time, it wasn't too funny. This time, the fate of the world was in their hands. Deadpool and Wanda moved through the streets, which barely resembled anything remotely normal anymore. Each step they took seemed to carry them into a different version of New York, a kaleidoscope of realities, twisting and warping, sometimes peaceful, sometimes horrific. Buildings would rise and fall like waves. One moment, solid skyscrapers. The next, ruin. The people they passed weren't people anymore. Some had been transformed into fantastical creatures, others into abstract shapes barely recognizable as human. Wanda walked in silence beside him, her face tight with concentration. Every few moments, a flash of magic would slip from her fingers, causing the world around them to shudder. Deadpool noticed the toll it was taking on her, how her steps slowed as the strain of holding reality together became more apparent. I gotta say it's like New York, but not. Deadpool mused it, kicking aside what looked like a three-headed pigeon. I give it a 5 out of 10 on the Yelp scale. Could use fewer tentacles. Wanda didn't respond. Her focus was on the skyline ahead. In the distance, an ominous red glow pulsed like a heartbeat, constant, unrelenting. That was the source, the epicenter of the magical outbreak. They continued toward the glowing heart of the city, where everything around them seemed to grow more volatile. The ground cracked beneath their feet, jagged pieces of reality, splitting apart while strange creatures blinked in and out of existence as if the world itself couldn't decide what should stay or go. As they approached the source, Wanda's steps slowed even more, her breathing becoming shallow. It's worse than I thought, she muttered, her voice barely a whisper. I did too realize how much I've had damage. Deadpool glanced at her, seeing the strain etched on her face. Wanda, you've got this. You just need to keep your head in the game. And hey, I am here. You know, your personal chaos-proof buddy. She gave a small, tired smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I hope you rewrite. They finally reached the center of the magical storm. The epicenter was a swirling vortex of red and black magic, an intense storm of power that tore at the fabric of reality itself. Tendrils of rock energy lashed out, striking the ground, the sky, everything inside. It was beautiful and terrifying, all at once, a sight that made Deadpool feel, for once, a little less talkative. This is it, Wanda said, her voice trembling as she stared at the vortex. This is where it all started. Deadpool looked at her, noticing the way her hands trembled at her sides. So what's now the plan? Do we jump in? Or... Wanda shook her head. I have to contain it first. I need to stabilize the magic before I can reverse it. And how exactly do you do that? I have to face it. All of it. Deadpool stared at her. That sounds like a lot of therapy packed into a few minutes. It's not that simple, Wanda said, softly, taking a deep breath. This magic, it's so tied to my emotions, to everything I've been trying to bury. If I don't confront it, it'll keep tearing reality apart. Deadpool scratched his head, clearly out of his depth. Well, I am not exactly the feelings guy, but I'll do what I can. Provide emotional support or stab something, whatever you need. She smiled, though. It was weary. Just stay close. I'll need your help if things get worse. No problem. I am great at making things worse. Wanda stepped closer to the vortex, her hands outstretched, fingers twitching as she summoned her power. The storm seemed to react to her presence, the tendrils of magic reaching toward her, wrapping around her arms, pulling her into the heart of the chaos. For a moment, Deadpool thought she might disappear into it, but then the magic slowed as if waiting, listening to her command. Wanda closed her eyes, focusing her face, contorting with effort. Deadpool could feel the tension in the air, the way reality seemed to hold its breath. The ground beneath them trembled as the magic twisted and pulsed, fighting against her control. "Crossing on, Wanda, you've got this," Deadpool muttered, watching as the vortex shifted, its wild energy starting to slow. "Just keep that focus. Dante, let it get in your head." Suddenly, the ground beneath him lurched, and Deadpool staggered back as a massive wave of magic burst from the vortex, knocking him off his feet. He landed hard, rolling across the ground before skidding to a stop. When he looked up, he saw Wanda struggling, her face twisted in pain as the magic fought back, the storm intensifying once again. Wanda Deadpool shouted, scrambling to his feet. He could see the magic pulling at her, dragging her deeper into the vortex, as if it were trying to consume her. She was fighting it, but it was clear she was losing. Without thinking, Deadpool rushed forward, diving into the storm of magic. The moment he entered the vortex, everything shifted. Reality blurred around him, and suddenly he wasn't in New York anymore. He was somewhere else, somewhere dark, cold, and silent. The only thing he could see was Wanda standing in the center of the void, surrounded by shadow. "Wanda," he called out, but she didn't respond. She was frozen, staring at something in the darkness. Deadpool followed her gaze and saw them, figures emerging from the shadows, figures from Wanda's son's path. Her brother Pietro stood in front of her, his face twisted in anger. Behind him, the shadowy forms of others, friends, enemies, all people she had lost or hurt. "This is my fault," Wanda whispered, her voice broken. "I did that." "Nope, nowhere," Deadpool said, stepping forward. "This isn't the time for guilt trips. Maximoff, we've got a reality to fix." But Wanda wasn't listening. The shadows around her grew darker, more oppressive as her guilt and grief took hold. The vortex was feeding off her emotions, amplifying them, twisting them into something dangerous. If she didn't break free, the magic would consume her and take the world with it. Deadpool grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "Wanda, snap out of it. You are not alone in this." She blinked, as if seeing him for the first time. Her eyes were glassy, distant. I can fix this." "Yes, you can," Deadpool said firmly. "You read the freaking Scarlet Witch. You can do anything. Remember, this is just magic. You've faced worse." Wanda's gaze wavered, but the darkness around her seemed to pulse as if the vortex itself was taunting her, feeding off her doubt. Her brother's sorry figure stepped forward, his voice a harsh whisper. "You've caused so much pain. Wanda, you can fix this." Deadpool growled in frustration. "Oh, for crying out loud, will you stop listening to the guilt ghosts already? You read better than this. You'd be stronger than this, and besides, you welcome me and I am an excellent bad influence." Wanda's lips twitched, a faint smile breaking through the darkness. "A bad influence." "The worst," Deadpool said with a wink. "But now you need to be the hero. So stop moping and let's fix this mess before I lose my favorite burrito stand to a magical apocalypse." For a long, tense moment, Wanda just stood there, her eyes locked on the shadowy figures surrounding her. Then slowly she lifted her head, her gaze hardening with resolve. "You rewrite. I can fix this." "Damn right. You can," Deadpool said, stepping back as Wanda took control. With a deep breath, Wanda stretched out her arms, and the magic around them began to shift. The shadows recoiled as she summoned her power, her eyes glowing red with energy. The vortex pulsed violently, but this time Wanda didn't waver. She held firm, her magic wrapping around the chaotic storm, pulling it under her control. The ground shook as the vortex collapsed in on itself, the raw magic spiraling into Wanda's outstretched hand. Slowly, the world around them began to stabilize, the twisted realities smoothed out, the broken pieces of the city falling back into place. And just like that, it was over. Deadpool stared at the now quiet city, the air still shimmering faintly with residual magic.
"Wow, that was something."
Wanda lowered her arms, her breathing ragged, but there was a calmness in her expression that hadn't been there before. "It's so great," Deadpool said, brushing off his suit. "Now how about we get some tacos?" Wanda gave him a tired smile. "You never change, do you?" "Not if I can help it," Deadpool said with a grin. Hey, you did good, Wanda. You saved the world again. She nodded, her eyes distant for a moment as she surveyed the city. I couldn't try to have done it without you. Damn right, Deadpool said, clapping her on the shoulder now about those tacos. Wanda laughed softly, shaking her head. Let Cylon go. As they walked away, the city slowly returning to normal behind them. Deadpool couldn't help but glance at her. She had faced her demons, saved the world, and come out stronger on the other side. And while he'd never admit it, he was glad to have been a part of it. But for now, there were tacos to be eaten.